Told him, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told him.
Podcast about sports, because in sports it doesn't matter if no one believes in you.
Because nobody believed, nobody gave us a chance. Your whole network doubted us. Nobody believed us, and then they tried to rob us with calls in this place. And these guys are so resilient. You know what I mean? We talked about intent. What was our intent when we walked on the field? Our intent was not to take pictures, not to do all the superstar stuff. Our intent, our intent was to eat. Our intent was to come eat and be hungry. I'm not interested in all the bells and whistles. What I want is a team that fights their ass off, and they did tonight.
My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
They tried to rob us with calls in this place.
Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
Doing all right.
Lori's all right. Tonight is Monday, October 21st, 2024. It's a happy Monday in this household because of the football that happened over the weekend. Abe, I have never been required to eat so much shit based on things that I said just a few days earlier. On Thursday,
when?
I said, today, in my mind, getting ready for this show, everything I said was wrong. I made 5 picks in the Pick'em game. 4 of them were wrong. I made a series of predictions about how I thought different games would go throughout the day beyond just those picks. In fact, spent like 20 minutes just going through what I took to be the best games of the day. I think I mentioned like 8 games. I got like all of them wrong. I was completely wrong about everything that I thought going into this weekend, with one exception, which is the Georgia-Texas game. And it has never felt so good to have to just eat a big old bowl of shit this evening as we record the show, because I was right about the only thing that I actually cared about, which is the
actually
Georgia-Texas game.
in the lead up to that game, I think this was like Saturday, right before the Georgia-Texas game. You mentioned just that, like you in the group chat, you said that having been spectacularly wrong about almost everything else today, you were confident that Georgia was going to win. And for whatever reason, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't know why. Like, speaking of wrong, I was very glad to be wrong. I thought like there would be a better chance for like a meteor shower, a lot of things to happen than for Georgia not only to win but also win by double digits. I was like, there's no way.
I wouldn't be too surprised if we won by 2 scores.
Right.
And
I was what?
And then you said something about like asteroids being more likely than Georgia winning by 2 scores.
I was like, there's no way. But like for whatever reason, when you mentioned that, like that's the kind of stupid thing that would happen, right? Where it's like you're wrong about almost everything, and you got it exactly right. Basically, like who cares about the other things that were wrong? Who cares about Nebraska and Illinois and all these other goofy teams?
Yeah,
like,
fuck. I thought
Oklahoma's
Nebraska was going to beat up
and
on
all
Illinois,
that.
and they lose 56-7. I don't fucking care at all.
And Oklahoma being any good, they fucking sucked. And actually, that helped the whole argument because like Texas beat a shitty Oklahoma team anyway. So like the whole thing was kind of coming together.
There's a scene, and I can't think of what it's from, if it's a TV show or a sketch comedy or a movie. But, like, there's a new hot shot in the office, and everybody thinks they're fucking awesome. And then there's, like, the older guy who hates this new fucking guy. And then a new fucking guy, like, tells the one joke you shouldn't tell or something. And everyone's like, oh, that guy actually sucks.
Yeah.
And that's what Saturday was like.
Yeah.
For Georgia.
I don't think I totally get the analogy here, but
it's because I can't think of what it is. But it's just like, okay, new guy, fuck off.
Settle down, yeah.
Oh, as in Texas being the new guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Texas comes in, they're the hot shit.
The new guy, and then they like tell they say the one thing. It's like, oh no, dude, we don't joke about that. Like that's now everyone hates you.
All right. Before we get into the rest of the evening's proceedings, we, of course, need to let Abe live bet the games.
Ooh, who's playing this time?
We've got 2 Monday night games tonight, another
Wow.
doubleheader. We've
Back
got
in
the
the win
Ravens.
column. Okay.
Ravens traveling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chargers traveling to the Arizona Cardinals. Abe, you're currently 6-9 after confidently predicting that Spencer Rattler would lead the Saints to victory on Thursday Night Football. He did not, and the Saints were no good for you.
By the way, just to be clear for anyone listening, I'm not doing a reverse anything. I'm just going by like what I feel in the moment, right? These are honest mistakes that I'm making.
See, I think
constantly.
sometimes you're so certain of yourself that you take that half an extra step and be like, well, I can't go with that. The thing that I think is true is so reliably wrong. And I think that it ends up screwing you at least about as often as it helps you. So it's like, it's a wash when you try to go against yourself, I think.
So is Harbaugh still coaching didn't he have some sort of heart flutter issue not too long ago? I don't know
Wait, which
what's going on
Harbaugh?
with
We got both Harbaughs going tonight.
Oh, wow, you're right. The Michigan man with the Chargers. I thought he had like some sort of health thing. In any event, I'm going to go with him over the Cardinals. And then you said the Ravens in Tampa?
In Tampa.
Ooh. I'll go with shit. I'll go with the Ravens.
You're second guessing yourself here because
Yes,
you're so
yes,
certain
I
of the
am.
outcome, aren't you? I want to complicate things further. I'll give you a chance to turn things, change your mind here if you so choose. I read a thing today about how Ravens quarterback and regular season MVP finalist frequently, Lamar Jackson, is 22-1 in his career against the NFC. 22-1. That is an
That's
all-time high winning percentage of quarterbacks against the opposing conference. 22-1. Worth noting that he hasn't made it to the Super Bowl very often to test that winning percentage because
he
of
is,
his
like I said, yeah, he's Peyton
playoff
Manning.
failures.
He's Peyton Manning, yes. But yeah, that's a good stat. If it was actually, I would be more concerned if it was 20-0. Now that he's already got the loss out of the way, I'm more confident in
Sticking
the
with
Ravens
Lamar and the Ravens
winning.
tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Ravens are 4.5-point favorites. That game should kick off in the next hour or so. And then the Chargers-Cardinals. Chargers are -1 point on the road at the Cardinals. So you've got both Harbaughs tonight.
Yes, Harbaughs. They won't let me down.
Easy for me to remember. You're currently 6-9. You could claw your way back to near 500 with 2 wins tonight. But 6-11 here in what is this, week 8 or something of the NFL, or week 7 it would be tough to find your way back to 500 if you go down 4 games at this point.
I made it to defer to ChatGPT going forward, fire myself and let the robot figure it out.
Let us go to this weekend's games. Oh shit, wrong button. No, not the NBA schedule. Fuck, that is the super wrong button. Actually, let's do CIBalls NBA preview edition. Abe,
No.
the NBA season kicks off tomorrow night. Tonight, as you're listening to this, if you're listening on Tuesday morning or afternoon. Abe, give us a finals matchup. What should we expect this season? I'm going to assume that the chalky motherfucker that you are, you've already basically handed the 2024-25 championship to the Boston Celtics, who, of course, won last season. Is that your pick, or do you have other ideas about how this season will go?
First of all, how dare you, Bob? I make a lot of wild predictions. But last year, if you'll recall, Boston beat Dallas to win the title. And this is 6 straight champions who have not repeated as champions. And I think that streak will end now. Boston will repeat. And I suspect they'll go against the same team they played against last year, the Mavs. Dallas has Klay Thompson back. I mean, they traded for Klay Thompson, and now that team will be improved.
Isn't Klay Thompson bad at basketball now, though?
He is in Oakland, but he's now in Dallas. It's a new scene. It's going to be totally different, different responsibilities.
Presumably Dallas has got Luka back and
Kyrie
and
with the
also
flat earth guy.
the flat earther type.
Yeah, and plus Klay, that team will be solid. The wild card
Wasn't
will
the
be
knock against them that it was basically Luka and
Kyrie,
and then not a whole lot else going on?
Right. So now they have a little more going on. But that took them to the finals. I mean, that's nothing. That's not nothing, right? Just one more edition, and they should do well. The wild card is the big, tall, gangly Frenchie, Victor Wembanyama from the Spurs. I think they'll make the playoffs. They'll do well.
The Spurs were dreadful last year, though, right?
Yes,
Even with the tall, skinny phenom Wembanyama. Not any good. Have they improved, or you just expect?
He's gotten better. This is not much of an improvement, but they got Chris Paul, old man Chris Paul, still in the league.
Oh, good. Isn't he as old as we are? Nearly.
He's just about. He's around 40. But don't worry, he's going to import his knowledge on the young kid, and things will be fine.
His knowledge about how to dole out cock pops. Isn't he the one who's always like knocking dudes' junk on the way by?
Does Victor have the range to do the cock hits from his size? Like, I guess he can.
Might be too tall. He might just be like popping everybody in the belly by mistake.
Oh my God, there is so much football to talk about.
Sorry, that's CIBalls NBA season preview.
That was that, and now we're done.
Look for Victor Wembanyama to pick up the crotch shot technique from Chris Paul and possibly make the playoffs this year. And Abe says it's Celtics v. Mavs, with the Celtics coming out on top, and he's our NBA expert. So I will not even bother to mention any of my takes about the upcoming NBA season, of which there are many. Just a font of plentiful NBA takes that I'm stealing from you by not unleashing them right now. All right. Friday night, the college football weekend got underway with Oregon dominating Purdue. Purdue, who, of course, had put up a fight against Illinois the week before. And then we had Oklahoma State at BYU in an absolute thriller of a game, which I suggested was the game to watch. And that turned out to be correct.
It was just too late.
We just watched the highlights the next day. BYU secures victory at the very end of that one. And I threw down a Friday night wager, which I don't usually do, on Oklahoma State. I just had this weird feeling, even though Oklahoma State has stunk. I was like, this is a game that fucking Mike Gundy wins sometimes. Like, for no particular reason. Sort of like that weird feeling you get about Northwestern. It's like, wait a second. This is one of the weird ones where Gundy, out of nowhere, wins a game that he's not supposed to win. And then he almost fucking did it, and I almost made a pile of money. But it was not to be. Also that night, Florida State, they lost to Duke. And if you'll recall, in the CIB Pick'em game, 3 of us had Florida State winning that game on Friday night. Yeah. And I said, man, I kind of want to change my pick now because all of us idiots have selected the same game. And I should have done that. That was foolish of me. But Florida State stinks. What an absolute bummer.
Real quick on Oregon, like, this is their they've won all their games, but remember the first couple of weeks are kind of slow start? And now are they number 1 now? Like, they just kind of just humming along.
Yeah, they moved up to number 1 in both the AP and the Coaches Bowl.
Good job.
Doesn't matter. 1 and 4 are the same.
Yeah, everybody's taking turns. Yeah,
being number 1 doesn't matter.
Well, it matters in terms of the seeding through the rest of the playoffs, and
I think it doesn't.
Is going to make a big difference.
I don't think it will make that big of a difference.
You would almost this is a big picture thing, but you would almost certainly rather be the 5 seed than the 4 seed in a funny kind of way.
That's what I'm saying. Like, right? we don't know. So, like, number 1. Like,
or like the 5 seed than the 3 seed anyway. Because
what's the advantage? I mean, you get to skip a game if you're in the top 4, don't you?
You get to skip a game, but if you're Georgia, do you hate having to play whatever that team is if it means a home playoff game? Like who is the 12 seed going to be? Nobody that you actually have to really worry about if you're one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country.
I think the worst combination, and I know we're thinking ahead, but like to play in that conference title weekend and then lose and then play a couple weeks later at home. I mean, it'll be, whatever, but like that's too much like games. Like you should want to be able to skip one or the other, have a few extra days off.
It is a lot of games. It's just that if you're the 5 seed, you then move on from that 5-12 game to play the 4. So you get a home game and then you get to go play the 4, which means you're avoiding the 1 or the 2, which is like crucial.
I just don't think, especially this year, that there's a big difference between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's the same. Yeah. They're all good teams. It doesn't matter.
But if you're that 4 seed, well, whatever. We can get into it more as we move forward in the season. It's silly to try to game it out from here. All right, so the afternoon got underway. I wasn't watching any
I was
football
on my phone.
because what the hell was I doing? Oh, it was
Baseball.
we had baseball on Saturday this week instead of Sunday
Oh.
because we had Sunday they gave us off from our baseball duties in order to go to a local festival called Jack Fest, which is a festival for a pediatric cancer survivor who happens to be on my minor league team. So one of my little kids survived a truly awful bout with cancer when he was like 3 and 4 years old. Came through the other side, and now his parents put on this big festival where they try to raise big piles of money for cancer research and also for the Ronald McDonald House, because they were fortunate enough to, though they had to go to Philadelphia and live in Philadelphia for 8 months, which doesn't sound fun for anyone. The Ronald McDonald House put them up for 8 months while they were up there. And so they have in turn decided to try to raise as much money for that organization as they can. And it's the only excuse that is allowed on my minor league baseball team for why you're a Phillies fan is if when you were 3 or 4 years old, you had cancer that was likely going to kill you, and Bryce Harper wrote you a nice letter while you were in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and you became a Phillies fan as a result. So that's acceptable. All of his little friends who are by proxy Phillies fans because Bryce Harper was nice to their buddy who survived cancer, no, not good enough.
Oh, you don't get an extension?
No,
of
you do
that?
not get the pass because your Bryce Harper was nice to your buddy. Bryce Harper needs to have been nice to you in order to justify your Phillies fandom, in my opinion. Anyway, I didn't watch any of that fucking football until I got home from the games at like 5 or 6 o'clock. It was a very weird, and I felt very disoriented and discombobulated sitting down in front of the television for the first time at like 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. And like
What happened?
I'm looking at all the scores, but like, what's the narrative? What are the stories? What's happening? I don't understand what's going on in the world.
Bob, so I hate soccer. I hate watching soccer. But on Thursday or whatever, that Bob was like, "Do you want to take Calvin to soccer?" And I was like, "And watch the games on my phone?" Yeah. So I did.
Right. So Miami survives another absurd big. It's like 52-45, I think.
Yeah, like probably should have lost.
Another one that they could have lost. Although I think Louisville scored late to make that a 1-score game instead of a 2-score game. But
it didn't feel close. It felt close-ish the whole time.
Yeah.
Miami did nothing this weekend to dispel any doubts about,
except their amazing quarterback.
Right, but that's the thing. I'm sorry, but like Cam Ward gets himself into trouble almost as much as he gets himself out of trouble, or just slightly less than he gets himself out of trouble from everything that I've seen. I'm sure that he's a fun and cool quarterback, and I've only watched him play in a couple of these games. But I still don't trust this team. If you have to win a 100-point shootout against Louisville, then after nearly losing to Virginia Tech and Cal, then maybe things aren't as good as your record indicates that they are.
Not important, but does Michael Irvin have a role with the team? Why is he always there? He's
Big
always.
cheerleader?
I don't know. Why is Matthew McConaughey always on the
also
Texas
good
side?
point.
Always.
That is a good
Go
point.
away.
I found out he does have a role, and he's the Minister of Culture at the
McConaughey?
University of Texas. Yes, that's his title.
All right.
He's the Minister of Culture. I don't know if that's a paid position, if that's through the university or just through the athletic department, but like, yeah, he's the Minister of Culture for Texas, and which is why he had to. Well, we'll get to it later.
Is that on him then? The culture of throwing.
We'll get
It's
to
all
it
on
later.
him. It's all Matthew McConaughey.
All right. The other game in that noon window that we were looking at was South Carolina, Oklahoma.
No
And
one was watching that. It was awful.
Boy, was I wrong about that game. I said with absolute authority and definitiveness that, look, South Carolina is not going into Norman and beating Oklahoma.
You did say that.
Be serious.
Wrong.
This is South Carolina.
And not a good one either. Not a good South Carolina either.
Right. Not a very good South Carolina. And, boy, Oklahoma's bad. They
But,
have a dreadful offense, and the defense obviously didn't help them out any on Saturday either.
Right. South Carolina can still not be that good, but like I think Oklahoma just sucks.
Yeah.
Tennessee was the important one.
It's no good. Nebraska gets absolutely destroyed by Indiana, also in that noon window. Inexplicable to me. I don't know.
I have no idea what happened there.
I mean, everybody's big on Signetti, as Lori said last week, but I mean, unless they go on to win the fucking Big Ten, I just don't know.
They could. They probably won't, but they could.
Yeah.
They'll probably, if they keep it this, they'll probably go to the playoff, be the other Big Ten school, whatever.
I think part of it is that like Raiola is obviously a bit undercooked and not quite ready for prime time, no matter how insistent he is on the idea that he's the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. Probably got some work to do in terms of eating tape and getting better at doing the work. Then we end the 3:30 window opens up, and these are the games that I caught the tail end of. But we had Michigan losing to Illinois, another game that I got wrong. Notre Dame comfortably handles Georgia Tech and Tech's backup quarterback. But, of course, most important of all is that Alabama-Tennessee game.
Yes.
Which was just 7-0 at the half. And from the highlights that I watched today, because I didn't get to see any of the first part of this game, this is a game that was extremely ugly.
It was really ugly. I watched most of it. It was the one, Calvin's soccer game started at 3:30, I think, and we were late to it. So I got there. He was on the sideline, not playing yet, and I set up my phone and a headset and watched Calvin and kind of listened to the game and glanced down. And, yeah, it was yucky. Tennessee's defense is good.
Tennessee's defense is okay. It looks like Alabama, I think Nico turned the ball over like 3 times or something. Or Alabama anyway got 3 takeaways in the first half, and they only turned that into they got 0 points off of those turnovers.
Yeah.
They scored just the 1 touchdown in
By
the
the
first
way,
half.
Just if you look at the ESPN, this game is funny. Speaking of ugly, like the first half possessions were punt, fumble, punt, interception, missed field goal, touchdown, interception, punt, missed field goal, end of half.
Yep.
It was like 1 touchdown and just garbage. That was like
Ugly.
a very bad first half.
You're underselling it too, because we're talking about the missed field goal was a 12-play drive, and the touchdown was, it looks like, only a 5-play drive. But these are drives that are 3, 9, 4.
It's just
it's just hideous football. And Milroe, so I did get to watch most of the fourth quarter of that game. They had every opportunity to tie or take a lead in this game.
Yes.
Over and over again. Their defense was stopping Tennessee from marching down the field and scoring points. And they just didn't do anything. Their last possessions, after Tennessee takes a lead with about 8 minutes to go or 5-6 minutes to go in the game, Alabama goes 3 plays, -2 yards with a punt, and then they hold Tennessee to a 3-and-out. Alabama then goes 4 plays where they gain 1 yard and turn the ball over on downs. Tennessee kicks a field goal, and then the next Alabama drive ends in an interception. It's not like they didn't have the offensive possessions to get the thing done. That offense just can't figure anything out right now, and it's in large part because Milroe is a fucking bum against everybody who doesn't have a G on their helmet.
Yes, and thankfully they lost, and hopefully one more loss will do it to kick them out of the playoffs. Because I'm sure they still have it in them, despite how horrible they look against other teams. They still have another fuck you Georgia game in them this year.
Of course they do. They always do. They don't run out of those.
But Tennessee has a pretty. Who's that running back of theirs? They have a decent running back at least. The quarterback Nico's kind of uneven, but they have a solid running back.
Yeah, I appreciate you not trying to say his last name, since I am also refraining from trying to say his last name.
Not that hard.
Oh, you want to give it a shot?
Are you confident that any of the people are saying it the right way? Because I hear it confidently said in multiple
I'm confident
different
that we're
ways.
saying it in the same way that. Okay, I'm confident that people are saying it right in the same way they say Hernandez right. They're not pronouncing it in Spanish, but they're saying
I can say Iamaliava. I'm just not convinced
Yeah.
that is entirely correct,
Okay.
because I've heard it said in multiple different ways. And Nico is a nice, unique first name. Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say
nice.
Nico.
Yeah, Nico's good.
You're referring to Dylan Sampson, who ran 26 times for 140 yards, including a 36-yard long and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, they have a decent running back there. Again, watching this game, I don't have any particular confidence that Tennessee is actually like really good. Like they're
Right.
just fine. But I don't overly worry about the Tennessee
Yet.
game coming up.
But that's probably the most competitive of the rest of the games for Georgia. I mean, like that Ole Miss. I'm not too worried about that too much, even though it's like in
I mean,
Ole Miss.
but this is not to get to Georgia too quickly, but like it's going to be the same thing as the last few years. We're going to get everybody's best game.
Yeah.
So Ole Miss with its stacked roster is
Right.
going to be scarier against us than it was against,
True.
Kentucky.
All right, the non-Georgia games in the evening window, we had LSU handle Arkansas fairly handily. Much to my surprise, got that one wrong also. We had Kansas State beat up on West Virginia. That's 2 big eggs in a row for West Virginia, so I guess they stink. And then Kentucky and Florida. Kentucky gets absolutely hammered as a road favorite down there in the swamp. What was that? Game ends like
It's like 45 to 6
48
or
to 10 or something like that.
48-20.
There it is, 48 to 20.
So now we're up to 4 wins for Florida. Remember, I was saying, like, at what point they're going to keep this guy forever? Like, he's got a couple more wins. He doesn't have that many. His tough stretch begins now, I think. So he needed this win, but like he's almost there.
Yeah, they have a rough stretch here.
Yeah, so yeah, I made fun of you because I said they're going to struggle to make it to 5 wins, I think, never mind to 6 wins to qualify for a bowl. They beat Kentucky, which I didn't think they were going to do. They've got a week off before they play us on November the 2nd. Then they've got Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. Again, I'm not sure.
Florida State is another win, so that's 5. So all they need to do is just luck out against one of the good teams, like
But
maybe
not
Ole
Georgia.
Miss. Yeah, not Georgia, but like maybe Ole Miss or something.
Well, they're at Texas. We're a neutral site game, obviously. They have LSU at home, and they have Ole Miss at home. So if they can somehow find a way
It would be very funny if
to
they beat
split
LSU.
with LSU and
Yeah.
Ole Miss, and then beat Florida State to qualify for a bowl. Yeah, I mean, I think Napier keeps his job probably,
That's right.
and it's just remarkable, like to see them do what they did to Kentucky. And Kentucky's a pretty halfway decent football team.
Yeah.
To put up those kind of points against Kentucky after struggling the way that they did against Tennessee and failing to even like in my head, just failing to even bother trying to win the game at the end by going for 2 and trying to get out of there with a win. Like, I'm impressed at the very least with the coaching job done. I guess he was able to sell what they did in Tennessee as a moral victory because they kept it close, and then they're able to keep it rolling here against Kentucky. But if they had beat Tennessee and then do what they did against Kentucky, all of a sudden you can really start selling the boosters and selling the kids on a relatively successful season. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's all just prelude to the game of the week, which was Georgia against Texas. And I was trying to think of the last time we watched Georgia look like this. And I mean, we had some awesome defensive halves in 2019 and 2021 and 2022, but it's been at least since then, since it felt like we had a defense. Like, where has this front seven been?
Yes.
The fact that, I mean, in part, Michael Williams has been out, so that's the answer. But he hasn't been out the entire season.
Out, but also recovering. Like, he played the last game, I think, but not at 100%.
But between Jalen Walker and Michael Williams and...
See the letter name that's...
Oh, C.J. Allen?
Yeah, that's who I'm... Yes, the letters...
Yeah, well, whatever. The big part of it was just Michael Williams and fucking Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker was awesome. He was
What a
on
remarkable game.
their quarterbacks the entire time. Like, to have that sort of a pass rush and combine it with the fact that you've got Stackhouse up the middle shutting down the run. Like, they couldn't run the ball for shit. And it was constantly like they were getting the Texas was getting the ball, and it was going to be 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10 before you knew it, because they were just not able to move the ball on 1st and 2nd down. And
It felt so good to watch.
yeah, the Georgia offense did not click at all. At no point did it feel like the Georgia offense was doing a particularly great job of moving the ball.
Yeah, Carson Beck had a uneven game, to put it nicely. I mean, 2.5 picks, if you count that penalty
Yeah,
pick.
was a pick. You can
Yeah, I
count,
mean, he had
count
3
it.
picks. I mean, I'd say that the only one that wasn't bad, I mean, The one that is not on him, in my opinion,
the batted in the air one
is the one that's off of Lucky's hands across the middle, where maybe it could be a slightly better ball, but like that's just bad luck where it goes off you hit your receiver in the hands and it goes up in the air and the other team takes it away. The pick that he threw to Arian Smith on the controversial pass interference call that was then overturned subsequently. I blame Arian Smith for that pick because there's no way that the plan is to engage and commit offensive pass interference against that guy and then turn in the wrong direction for a back shoulder throw. Like that's just Arian Smith once again not being terribly good at being a wide receiver. Like I know he's a tremendous athlete and he's super fucking fast, but he has stone hands and he does not run great routes. And like that play in particular looks to me like an example of the wide receiver running a very bad route and it resulting in a pick the other way that almost went for 6.
Right.
And then that first pick wasn't great across the middle where he just kind of he threw it into double coverage and it was too high and the DB made a tremendous play on the ball.
Right. But you know, I mean, overall, the offense fed off the defense because, like, I think the first touchdown was as a result of a fumble from the defense. Like, they put them in a great spot, but it took a while for them to kind of get going, and they needed a little help. But that was where I was surprised by.
They go 7 and out. We then throw that pick. They go 3 and out. We throw another pick down in the red zone. Then they fumble, and so then we get a touchdown.
They fumble, but that was not just they fumble. That was
a strip sack.
He got punched in the back by a person.
Right. We had 2 strip sacks on the night, and then we score the touchdown from inside the 20 where we recovered it, and then again, our next field goal was the result of a 13-yard drive. The touchdown after that was the result of a 34-yard drive. The field goal that we kicked after that was the result of a 25-yard drive, and then we end the half ends with a punt by them, a punt by us, they fumble, and then the half ends 4 plays and 4 yards later with a field goal.
But it was 23-0 though, despite not a lot of activity seemingly.
Yeah.
Right, but with that starting field position, like Georgia probably should be up 35-0.
Yes.
Not 23-0, right? Like if the offense had shit moving in the right direction and Beck was on target, then that is better than an Alabama half, right? Like our defense played the best half of defense that I've seen any team play in college football this season. Yes. And it wasn't even close. They were
the quarterbacks were rattled.
The opposition.
They were rattled. I mean, I understand Arch being a little off because they brought him in for a couple of
Ewers looked like a scared little boy too.
Yeah.
Like Ewers and Manning both. There was a great shot after Manning comes in and like he actually put together a halfway decent little drive there that included like a 16-yard scramble or something, and like gave them a little bit of life. It didn't end well, obviously, because they didn't score any points there. But like but he comes off the sideline after turning the ball over, and there's a shot of the two of them sitting on the bench next to each other with their helmets off, and they both look like Vietnam vets with 1,000-yard stare. Yes. Like they just look like they don't like. There's a 0% chance that they're about to figure anything out. They both look completely outmatched and outclassed. Both in the huddle, like they did not have the feeling of being the dude back there. Because Georgia was hounding them on every single play.
But is this a lack of preparation by the coaching staff at Texas? Like, why were they so surprised? I mean, this is a team that's won 2 national titles. I mean, why wouldn't you be surprised?
I think it's that this was their first real SEC game.
Yeah.
Like, I know they played Oklahoma, which doesn't count. And then they played the worst team in the SEC with Mississippi State. And I am a little disappointed in the Georgia fans that were there for not chanting the SEC chant at the end. Like, it would have been funny.
That would have been funny.
But they were too drunk and tired, and they didn't think to do it. But, like, I think it comes down to this was supposed to be a regular season game, not we're playing Alabama in the semifinal game.
Right.
I mean, there was talk about like all of the ways that Georgia's disguising their various coverages and they're doing all sorts of stuff that they haven't done up to this point in the season. And I guess that's part of it. A big part of it must also necessarily be attributed to Kirby's ability to get these guys' heads in the right place before these sorts of games. And
Nobody believed in them.
I mean, there's a lot of material for that this week, right? I mean, literally nobody. I mean, I didn't believe in them.
yeah, everybody picked against them between all the way from
Your
the
whole
college game
network
day
doubted
crew
Yes.
us.
to no account podcasters. I mean, nobody believed in them.
Yeah, nobody.
Little old Georgia. Who believes little old Georgia is going to go all the way to big old Texas and get a W in that scary environment? The offense remains a concern, but to some extent, if this is what the defense is going to be or can be in moments that you absolutely have to have it, then you can almost assume that you have not seen Georgia's best game.
Right.
Which is remarkable because this was a really spectacular win.
Yeah.
Like just to go on the road to Texas and beat the number one team in the country. There's as much as I want to pick at Beck's inability to make throws that absolutely need to be made, as much as I want to complain about the fact that the game started with I think 3 drops or 2 drops anyway.
The drops are bad.
The drops are bad, and there were at least 4 or 5 completely unacceptable drops in this game, and still we win by 2 scores because the defense was so fucking good.
I was driving to the bank today, listening to Josh Pate in the podcast, and listening to the section about this game, and the car in front of me had Texas plates with a Texas Longhorns license plate frame. What do you call that?
Yeah, license plate frame, sure.
And I was just happy. Just
What timing?
Oh,
At the red light, you got to get out with your handy dandy screwdriver and flip that license plate frame around so that the
would be too scared of getting shot.
so the horns are down.
I was at the red light, and I was just like, oh, they're probably not as happy as me today. That felt good.
Kirby's post game on the field is an all timer for me. I'll find it now.
It's remarkable.
It's so great.
As you're pulling up the clip, during that penalty and the fans throwing the stuff, when the refs were congregating and talking, did you guys think that they were thinking about reversing the call? Because the whole time I was thinking like maybe there was like more stuff to clean, or just when I was watching the game, I did not think that they were actually talking through the flag, and they were just talking about like what time should they reset or some other like logistical issue. And then
I have to admit, because I don't know, I'm a dummy. It didn't. Okay, because I've seen flags thrown.
Yeah.
And then they say there's no foul.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That's the best thing the funniest thing to hear a referee say is there's a flag. The announcer says there's a flag on the play. We now go to the referee to tell us what's going on, and the guy comes on the microphone and he says, "There is no foul for holding on the play," or "There is no foul for defensive pass interference on the last play.
Yeah.
It's third down."
Yeah.
Like, wait a second. What do you mean? If you're saying there is no foul for holding,
Yeah.
What was that?
you're suggesting that someone thought that there was a hold on that play.
Right, 'cause it's one of them, right? It's one of the refs that threw the flag. It's not like the broadcast crew threw
not
the flag.
some dumbass from the stands threw the flag, and on the end of the flag it says holding number 87.
But I guess
and then the refs get together and are like, no, that dope in the third row thought there was holding, so he threw the fan flag, but clearly there was no holding, so now we have to go on the microphone and look like an asshole and say there was no foul for holding on the play.
Literally a false
yeah,
flag.
I guess the difference is like they don't say there's a foul for something and then take it back later. That's not what they do unless it's targeting.
Right. And
But,
especially
that is
after
specific to targeting.
Especially, I mean, this was like the worst look because, like, especially after bad behavior by the crowd. Like, you don't, just the sequence of events just was not a good look.
My brother Christopher was at this game, spent an inordinate amount of money to be at this game.
Don't worry, he has it.
And he was texting me periodically, even though he had tremendous seats. It's funny, even though you have really great seats, you still can't really tell what's going on a lot of the time. And so he would text me to be like, so what happened there? What do we think's going on? Was that a good call or a bad call? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is proving all of my points.
And so he's like, so in the interim, after that DPI gets called and they set Georgia up with the first down, he's like, I couldn't really tell, was that a valid call or not? And I said, it's super questionable. It could have gone either way, but like, that's football, basically, was my response. Like, yeah, like objectively.
There are bad calls all the time.
Yeah, there are bad calls all the time. And like, yeah, that wasn't a great DPI to call there. It didn't look like DPI to me. It looked like a lot like, again, this now multiple times we mentioned it, that Ohio State offensive PI from a couple of weeks ago, where he flings the defender back a couple of yards. If Arian Smith were stronger, then that guy would have been flung back a couple of yards and not been able to make the interception, because Arian Smith absolutely initiates contact there.
Right.
And so that should either be OPI or a no call. In my opinion, it should have gone as a no call, because Arian Smith initiates contact, but the other guy hangs on him as well. Like, he grabs Arian Smith's arm and uses it as almost a little bit of leverage to come off of Arian Smith towards the ball.
Right.
And so both of them have a right to the ball. Neither of them should be hand fighting like that, probably. It's probably best as a no call. But I do not understand. It's what it ended up being. But you cannot, after you've announced the penalty, marked the ball for the other team's first down, and then like an act of God happens, and in this case, an act of the crowd throwing a bunch of debris upon the playing surface, where you have to stop everything for 5 minutes.
Right.
Make the cheerleaders clean it up.
Yeah.
By the way, kudos to the support staff and the cheerleaders. They got on that immediately. They cleaned that up very fast.
Yeah, and Sark sort of jogs over to the student section and is like, we're not going to have this.
Yeah.
Stop doing this. But, like, it worked.
It worked, yeah.
Because the entire time that delay is happening, the ref who made the DPI call is getting an earful from Steve Sarkisian on the sideline. Right. And then he runs over to the group of officials who are just chatting, waiting for the debris to stop raining down on the field. And he's like, I don't know about that call. And then the announcement after the debris is finally cleared is after discussion.
After discussion.
There was no defensive pass interference on the last play, which is total fucking horseshit.
Yeah.
It's not after discussion. It's after Sark was in that guy's ear for 5 minutes while the student section threw water bottles. And they threw a bunch of and everybody watched the play a dozen times on the big board while the water bottles were raining down.
And I don't think Kirby was campaigning because the call was already made. So he's thinking, make sure my players are safe from the throwing, and he's probably just thinking forward. He was like surprised is putting it mildly, but he was like shocked when he found out that all this time that they were spending was to overturn the previous call, and all of the shenanigans from the fans afforded the refs the time to overturn the call. If it was like a neutral site or in Athens, they would just moved on to the next play. Maybe they would.
I'm reminded of the Chipper Jones's last playoff run with the Braves way back when
like 2012 or something.
He gets they call a
infield fly,
and the idiot Braves fans start throwing shit onto the field, and they have to pause the game for a few minutes to wait for the trash to stop flying and then to clean the trash up off the field. Completely unacceptable. But what if in the intervening time they had been watching the big board? The umpires then got together out there behind second base and were watching the big screen. And it's like, that didn't look like it should have been an infield fly after all. And then they come back after that and be like, after discussion, and the 55,000 people throwing beer cans at us, we are going to say that was not the infield fly rule, in fact, and everybody's safe and no outs.
The SEC should amend their rules or clarify the rules. If there's any sort of fan disruption, throwing, streaking, anything to buy more time, the refs have to play like Sudoku or be otherwise occupied. They can't be thinking about what's going on the field. That way, they can think, they can talk to each other. They have to resume play as soon as the fan disruption is done. They can't talk about the previous play.
Yeah, but in this case, it worked out because we won anyway. So fuck them.
But the thing is,
they're awarded the ball as they should have had it. To be fair, probably shouldn't have been a penalty in the first place.
Right.
First and goal from the 9-yard line, and they get a touchdown there, and that draws it. I think that draws it to within one score.
It's 23-15. Yeah, now it's a one-score game.
And they still get fucked, right? Like we end up winning 30-15, and it doesn't fucking matter. They would have been unbearable if that call had stood. They would have said, "Hey, we were about to turn this into a one-score game, and we were on our way back, and the refs stole it for you, and now they don't have that."
They tried to take it from us.
That is a good point.
They don't have that to lean on anymore, at least.
Right. And to Georgia's credit, that development happened. They score. It's not a one-possession game. I think the ball's like on the 11. They engineer like an 11-play drive to score a touchdown.
The only
to put
good
the game
drive
away.
that the offense puts together all day,
Right.
In terms of a long, sustained drive that ends in points. Yes,
it came at the right time, because basically just kind of put it away, because they were thinking, okay, we hold them. I think it was third down actually, and they converted
it was like 3rd and 13 or something.
Right, because I mean, if that was a fourth down, like a 3 and out after what just happened, the game could have been different.
Yeah, no, it was a big moment, and it was hugely important that Georgia, after they score that touchdown, turns around and extends the lead once again. I do want to play Kirby's end of game interview that he had on the field.
How do you know how to get the best out of your players when you need it most?
You know, these players get the best out of me, and I'm so proud of these guys because nobody believed. Nobody gave us a chance. Your whole network doubted us. Nobody believed us. And then they tried to rob us with calls in this place.
They tried to rob us with calls in this place is my favorite series of words.
I'm sorry, everyone. Screen capture that. That's great.
They tried to rob us with calls in this place. Like, there's something about the way that is constructed that is perfect for me. Like, they tried to rob us of calls in this place. Like how dare they, is what he's saying there. They thought that they were going to rob us in this place. Whenever somebody does, like, the specificity of here, I always get a kick out of it.
These guys are so resilient. You know what I mean? We talked about intent. What was our intent when we walked on the field? Our intent was not to take pictures, not to do all the superstar stuff. Our intent was to eat. Our intent was to come eat and be hungry. I'm not interested in all the bells and whistles. What I want is a team that fights their ass off, and they did tonight.
Speaking of the call that was changed in the third quarter, what did you think of the composure you saw from Carson Beck in your offense?
I thought Carson had great composure all day. He had 4 drops to start the game. It didn't rattle the kid. He threw interceptions. It didn't rattle the kid. The guy's a great player. He takes undue criticism, and all he does is lead our team. This was a team victory, offense, defense, special teams, in a tough place to play.
So much was made about their explosive offense coming into the game.
Dark Kirby is so great.
The fact that the lights go out in the middle of the interview is pretty spectacular also.
So good.
So the end of game stuff, like the people that run these stadiums, they don't care about good or bad. They just do the same stuff at the end. It seems like the
I
end
know
of game
what they were doing there. It wasn't just that call, by the way, that was questionable during this game.
Targeting.
There were multiple moments throughout this game where it felt like we were fighting the refs and they were not impartial observers and enforcers of the rules. And I don't usually freak out about such things, but there was a spot on an out of bounds call to the boundary by ATN that was super questionable, that left us half a yard or a yard short of where I thought he belonged. Then there was the one at the goal line where they marked him short. And then on replay, he very clearly has broken the plane with that ball. We ended up scoring a touchdown on the next play or the play after that anyway.
Was that the one on fourth down where they scored on
the one where ultimately we get it on fourth down. He broke the plane on second down. I have no idea why they didn't overturn that. They looked at it for like fucking 3.5 minutes, and then they come back and say the play stands as called, which is bullshit. He clearly breaks the plane.
I think that was the play where, like, the broadcast crew they were also like, "Hey, this looks like a touchdown. Like, what's going on?" But I don't know what the refs were up to.
Yeah.
An Alabama guy on my Twitter said during the game, like, I see now why Georgia fans complain about this stuff all the time. Like, oh, yeah. It seems. I see what Georgia fans are complaining about.
Yeah.
They should shut up most of the time, but today it's egregious.
It was fucking egregious. There were multiple examples of it, including on a play that they had from their own end zone. I'm going to pull it up here. This is midway through the third quarter. Georgia's up 23-8, and it is first and 10. Texas has the ball at their own 5-yard line. And there's a play where I was like out of my seat screaming that there were multiple holds happening. And I know you can find a hold on every single play in football if you're looking for it. But this was so egregious as it was happening. You're looking here in this part of the screen. Number 8 is being shoved directly in the back. That's a block in the back in the end zone. That's a safety.
That's a safety, yeah.
2 points for Georgia. Then in the middle, you're looking at, is that Stackhouse? I don't know who that is there. Being held from behind by at least one, possibly 2 dudes who have pulled his shirt out from the tucked position. He is clear of the guy who's got his shirt by a full yard and a half, and his shirt is being pulled by that guy out of his pants as he's crossing into the end zone. That's 2 fouls happening in the end zone, both of which should have resulted in a safety.
And the ref is like right there, right? Like you think
they're
that
just
he's
looking right at it. There
Right.
are 2, and this is with 8:07 to go in the game in the third quarter. They're first and 10 from their 5-yard line. He's about to hit what I think is maybe the longest play that they hit
I think
on
so.
the day, but like it is nothing short of blatant.
They tried to rob it from us.
That he's being held up the middle from, I mean, like literally, I'm not exaggerating. His shirt is pulled out of his pants and he's
It's like a yard.
He's a yard clear of the guy. The shirt is stretched out a full yard.
Right.
Stretchy shirt.
With the offensive lineman holding on to the defensive lineman's shirt. That's a hold in the end zone. That's a safety. And then also, I don't know if it's a corner blitz or just a linebacker blitz off the end there, but he gets around the chip block from the running back and then clears the right tackle. And the right tackle has no choice but to try to shove him in the back. And he gets 2 hands in the numbers. Like, it's not close to being a block from the side or the front. He's just shoving him right in the back. And the play ends up going for fucking 50, 60 yards or something from here. It was at that point that I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Right.
Because, like, and this is before the questionable target.
Yeah,
This is
earlier.
This is a crew that is full of Florida fans, is what this is.
By the way, even though the refs missed this, I imagine that I don't know when the positional teams meet after this. Maybe like it happened earlier today, but I would hate to be in the offensive line room for Texas because like that still frame that you just had, Bob. Like all the offensive linemen were out of position. Like how are the defenders ahead of you? Like why are they on the other side of where you should be? That was a terrible play by them.
Yeah, we'll play it a little bit faster this
A little
time.
faster might be nice.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how you miss it unless you're just willfully not looking for it.
I imagine
Well,
that
what the fuck happened here? Why didn't we bat that down or something?
The ref is probably just looking at the quarterback to see if he's going to get hit hard. Like, I don't think he's, like, focused on anything. He's got, like, confinement or whatever goggles.
Yeah. It ends up with a completion 10 yards, or sorry, at the 40. So not a 60-yard play, but a 40-yard play. That's one of their longest plays of the day, if not the longest play of the day. And it's just, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
We won.
It just felt
They
like
tried
we
to
were
rob it from us.
right. It felt like we were fighting the refs on top of everything else. What do you think about the fact that that Sarkisian brings in Arch Manning in the second quarter there, considering that Ewers has been very, very good this year, with the exception of like that first quarter against Oklahoma when he looked fairly not great. He looked rattled against Georgia. Does this create some sort of controversy in Texas, or is this a thing that you do to try to avoid controversy?
I wonder if like he just thought like, oh, Georgia doesn't deal well with quarterbacks, which is let's try that. Like maybe he just like let's try this because like it worked when Alabama did it a couple of times. Like because that did not last very long. That experiment lasted what, like a drive?
I think it was two. I think it was in for two series.
2 series, yeah. So and he wasn't really doing much. So it was like it's not so much Ewers, it's the Georgia defense. So it's not like Ewers was sucking it up. It's just like whomever you put behind center is going to suck it up against this defense. So they just brought back in the veteran. So I thought Ewers
was fine, but also I thought it helped him to be out for a couple of series because they come back after the half and he looks better than he did in the first half. And part of that is probably whatever adjustments that they put in, and part of it is just maybe he's settled down in some way.
Right.
But I understand the thinking, which is like, look, they're getting to our quarterback way too quickly, and Manning probably has a better chance of getting away from that sort of pressure, even if he's not as experienced in terms of reading defenses and making the right decision right away. At least he's more of an athlete who can run away from shit when shit's going wrong. So I understood that, and it did. Manning looked fine. He didn't look any worse than Ewers did, certainly. I don't see it as like creating some sort of major quarterback controversy moving forward.
Any media who wants to act like there is like doing the bad thing.
I do want,
Quinn Ewers is the quarterback.
Right.
It's known. It's stated. He had a breather. He also looked like he'd been beat up a bunch.
Yeah.
Like, you have another really good quarterback as backup. Give your first guy a break for a couple drives.
I do wonder, though, had Manning scored a touchdown in his first series, that would have kind of complicated things, right? To bring back
But that's
Ewers.
not what happened.
Right, that's not what happened. But what if it was like, oh, shit, this fucking kid is dynamite. Let's keep him on.
Right. What's funny is that if this game ends 30-15, but the 15 was at the hands of, like, Arch Manning is just who engineered those 15 points. Now we have a quarterback controversy.
That's different.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was just 2 series in the second quarter, I'm not sure it matters too much. Had Texas been overhyped at this point? Were they overrated coming into this game? Was, as I suggested last week, I was suspect of their schedule and who they had beaten to this point relative to what Georgia had proven so far, despite my reservations about the Georgia offense more than anything else. And also, like, the Georgia defense, to be fair, had given up a ton of big chunk plays coming into this game. Like, we had every reason to suspect that this could end up being some sort of high-flying shootout type situation rather than the dominant defensive performance that we ended up seeing. Is Texas not as good as everyone thought? Is Georgia actually just that much better, at least on the defensive front seven? Or is this just another example of the flattening of college football, and you just never know what the fuck you're going to get from week to week?
I think Texas is not as good as, like, the biggest hype of whatever people were thinking, but they're still a great team. They're still, when the dust settles, they're going to be there, like, in the playoffs, and maybe this is actually a good thing for them. Kind of get this out of your system in the regular season, figure out what you did wrong, and then come back better prepared. I wonder if they're going to use Arch, like, in the. I don't know if this is like, maybe we can utilize him, like, have a few package plays for him, and see if that kind of
like we did with
things.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, something. Yeah, but maybe try something to see, like, we need to be a little more dynamic, and maybe that will help.
You have almost no reason not to, right? If they're both about as good as one another, and one of them is a slightly different sort of quarterback, as in someone that you can put designed runs in for, or who can get away with
for Tebow at first too,
running away from pressure. Then why not? And why not get him in high leverage situations moving forward against better competition than he faced while Ewers was injured against Mississippi State and Louisiana Monroe. They go to Vanderbilt, which is less of a gimme than we would have expected a couple of weeks ago, certainly.
It's still Vanderbilt, though.
But it is still, like, it is, like, if Texas loses, like, we can assuredly say that this would be the greatest season in Vanderbilt football history.
Oh, my God.
It already is.
If they beat Alabama.
They beat Alabama, thank God. We don't have Vanderbilt this year, right?
We don't have Vandy. We don't have South Carolina.
That's the best thing about Alabama losing to Vanderbilt is, like, of all the years that happens, it's the year that we're like, oh, you lost to Vanderbilt, lame.
They go to Vandy for a 4:15 tilt. That'll be on my best games to watch this weekend in every time slot. Then they have
busy this weekend.
Florida comes to Texas, and then they go to Arkansas. Kentucky comes to Texas, and then the biggest game left on their schedule is certainly that A&M game at the end of the season.
A&M is still the leader in the SEC clubhouse? Are they still top dog?
A&M and LSU, but they play each other this weekend. So one of them will have a loss.
Nice.
I'm surprised at Texas's relative softness on defense. Like 30 points. I know that our field position was incredibly advantageous for the offense, and without it, who knows if we are able to pile up 30 points. But if our offense had been clicking at all, again, that's a 45 or a 52 on our side of the ledger rather than the mere 30. And that was a bit of a surprise to me. I didn't expect a Georgia offense that looked like hot garbage for long stretches with drops and inaccurate passes from the quarterback. And really, as good and solid as Etienne was, and he put together some really important runs on important downs. Like,
and
I
did
think
a very likable post-game interview. Won me over.
What I like, and my feeling watching the game, and I think I said to Lori, was like, boy, this kid is actually a perfect fit for this team this year in a way that I hadn't quite appreciated up to this point. Because, like, we've had some depth issues at running back. We have a couple of hurt dudes. We've got the freshman from California, Nate Frazier, who's fucking awesome, but obviously needs some seasoning.
Little and doesn't know anything.
Right. He just doesn't know the offense well enough yet. He doesn't know how to block well enough yet. And I love the way he runs. He runs with fucking violence, but so does Trevor Etienne. Like, he was running with fucking violence and authority. And also, he was running incredibly intelligently on on a couple of different...
He was seeing stuff.
Right. A couple of different second and third and longs where he is picking his spot with three defenders right in front of him and finding the lane and getting just that enough yardage to secure the first down. And he did it a couple of times, and it was fucking huge. And so, yeah, we had that going for us, but it's not like Etienne dominated this game. He didn't rush for over 100 yards. He was opportunistically good. He gets those 3 scores because of incredibly fortuitous field position situation, some very good blocking from the offensive line, opening up the holes that they needed to open up. And also, yeah, when he needed to be awesome, he was awesome. And, like, that's what you want out of, like, the thing, like, oh, we're going to have a transfer from fucking Florida come play for Georgia. That fucking sucks, was my feeling when Trevor Etienne decided he was going to be a dog.
Sucks
but, like,
for Florida.
I know it sucks for Florida, but it sucks for, like, to me, like, I don't want a fucking Florida guy coming in.
He's not a Florida guy. He's that other guy's little brother.
I don't give a shit. He was a Florida Gator. And I'm just telling you what my instinctive reaction was to the news that Trevor Etienne was going to be a Bulldog. And it was, well, that kind of fucking sucks. Like, I don't care for that at all.
I had no idea.
And, like, tonight, or Saturday night, rather, for the first time, I was like, oh, I fully understand this. I was dumb to not embrace this kid at the start. But again, like, up to this point, I don't think that he had shown quite as much as he showed.
How much of it was his post-game interview?
No, I came to all of these conclusions before the post-game interview.
I just wanted to hug him. He was so cute.
Anything else coming out of this game that's worth mentioning? Again, between Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, it's like, if those two dudes are healthy and Nazir Stackhouse stays healthy and CJ Allen continues to do, but, like, if that defense is the defense that we're going to get moving forward, we've got Florida in 2 weeks after the bye. Then we get to go to Ole Miss.
What a deserved bye week. Take a week off, you guys.
Yeah.
I don't want them to have the week off here. I would much prefer that we go play Florida right fucking now, and then have the week off before Ole Miss, Tennessee.
Sure,
but that would be my preference if I was.
I think everybody's ligaments would prefer the way it is.
Sure.
Like, I think they physically need the rest.
Florida, then we go to Ole Miss. Tennessee comes to Georgia. UMass comes to Georgia, and then Georgia Tech comes to Georgia. So, I mean, it's really just those 2 games in the middle of November. Ole Miss and Tennessee.
Careful.
I mean, I just.
Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
I know anything can happen, and it's Florida. But what has Kirby?
UMass.
What has Kirby proven in his tenure here? And he's not going to lose to this fucking Florida team.
We don't tend to do that with Kirby, but you never know.
But if the defense does what it did the other night, there's not a team. Like, I will have absolute confidence that this is the favorite to win the national title. Like, I don't care if we have to play Texas again. I don't care if we have to play Ohio State or Oregon. That front seven, that performance that we saw was so thoroughly dominant that I don't think that there's another team in college football that can stand up against it. Like, and it's not fucking close.
I would feel a little more comfortable if Carson Beck had a better game. But yeah, like, you can ride that front seven pretty far as is.
Yeah. We're still waiting for Carson Beck to be awesome. He has not really been awesome.
But you know what else Carson Beck did? He did that little run and ended the game with that little run at the end.
Yeah, he had a nifty run for first down.
He's not an idiot. He just sometimes throws bad.
Yeah.
Also, maybe I don't know. I've never been a quarterback, but I wonder like if dropping the balls like frustrates quarterbacks and they kind of press and they make bad decisions
Of course
later.
it does.
I'm sure it is no help, but
Yeah.
I can't help. I mean, being an obnoxious dude drinking a beer, sitting on his couch kind of way.
It's that Lamborghini.
It's the fucking Lambo
Oh,
and
is
the
that-
internet famous Instagram girlfriend that's fucking him up this year.
It's the girlfriend, not the Lamborghini.
It's the Lambo and the girlfriend. It's the combination of the two. Anyway, is there anything else in top 25 college football that's worth mentioning before
Probably not. I mean, we got to go.
we move along here?
We have to update the thing that no one cares about and then talk about politics for fucking 2 hours.
Did you not have anything for Matthew McConaughey's culture of?
Oh, that's right. Hang on.
I wonder if other schools have a similar thing. Maybe that's what Michael Irvin is. He's a culture guy. We need somebody at Georgia.
No, we don't.
That's some.
It wouldn't be
culture
anyone
dude.
good.
All right, this was tweeted by Matthew McConaughey. It was at McConaughey, if you're looking to follow him on
I'm
Twitter.
not.
And McConaughey, wow, he got in early. Look at him.
Or paid.
It's quite a statement.
You're going to read this out loud.
I
Jesus
sure am.
Christ.
Longhorn Nation, and specifically our DKR student section. MOC McConaughey coming at you here. And that's Minister of Culture, McConaughey. First off, you were electric Saturday night when we hosted Georgia. Bravo. Let's continue to bring it. Even though our horns didn't get the W, you created a measurable home field advantage. Yeah, they did. You cannot deny that. They absolutely created a measurable home field advantage in that they got a penalty overturned that should not have otherwise been. But let's get real about the bottle bombing the field glitch we had. Not cool. Bogey move. Yeah. Bogey move?
Is that a common expression?
No, I Googled it.
Common
and
for him,
I
maybe.
cannot find another example of someone using the phrase bogey move. So that's a McConaugheyism.
Okay.
Perhaps some intern at the Ministry of Culture there in Austin, cooked that up for him to use. But not familiar with it. Bogey move. Yeah, that call was BS, but we're better than that. Longhorn Nation knows how to show up, show out like no other, and still keep our class. So, going forward, let's clean that kind of BS up and leave that behind us for good. We have to shake hands on that. Next up, November 9th, when the Gators come to town, let's make sure they feel the heat. Can't hear the play calls and burn their timeouts. But remember, nothing hits our field except that Texas fight. Till then, root hard and hook 'em. McConaughey.
My favorite part about when somebody calls out bad behavior, they always mention that they're better than that, even though there's no evidence of it. I mean, you should be better than that, maybe, but not better.
All of the evidence points to you, in fact, being precisely that, not better than that.
Also, don't take this we business. Don't take ownership of a bunch of drunks. Just you can't control what degenerates do.
Abe, if you've been made the Minister of Culture, do you think you can just throw your hands up and be like, I can't take ownership of what a bunch of drunks get up to? Well, then I think we're going to need a new Minister of Culture, Mr. McConaughey.
I would defend the culture by shitting on the Georgia. It must have been those Athens dummies. They came to town and they don't know how to behave. It wasn't our people. There's no evidence to show.
And threw trash at a call that was benefiting them.
Yes.
They're idiots.
You got to support your team no matter what.
Anyway, all right, let's update the CIB Pick'em game because if we don't, Cousin Steve will be furious with me.
Perfect game.
Because Cousin Steve managed to accumulate 5 green boxes this week. He went 5 for 5 for a grand total of 45 points, giving him a tie for the all-time weekly high. The rest of us were not so fortunate. Lori missed 3, I missed 4, and Abe missed 4, which was 10 points for me, 10 points for Abe, 20 for Lori, giving us a situation where I have 200 points out in front. Steve has vaulted all the way to second place from the caboose with 137 points. That's 2 weeks in a row that our caboose has leapt from last place into second place. Abe in third place with 130 points, and Lori is the new caboose with a mere
I like it. I don't care.
122 points. Also worth noting, congratulations are in order for Cousin Steve. As I've said before on the show, I've intimated that Cousin Steve, likely an honest man who puts his money where his mouth is, and no doubt is betting on these games. He sent me a screenshot of a 5-leg parlay where he took South Carolina, Illinois, the Buffalo Bills minus 8.5 points, the Lions straight up, and the Chiefs straight up.
Nice.
He bet $10 on that 5-way parlay and turned it into a cool $364.
Nice. Good job.
By being the honest man that he is. Well done, Cousin Steve. And also not the only bet that he made money on this weekend, because he had a separate 2-leg parlay with the Lions and the Chiefs where he turned a $50 bet. He was so confident that he doubled down with the NFL games to go and made another $220 on top of that.
Wow.
Quite a profitable weekend for Cousin Steve, but still only good enough for second place at the moment, Steve. And I'm still well out in front with my 200 points. Although I will say, if you bums keep hitting these fucking 45-point weeks, I'm going to start getting a little bit nervous here. Don't care for it. Jimmy Carter gets things staggeringly wrong with his bet and goes to 4-4 on the season. The Kentucky Wildcats and the Florida Gators went over early in the third quarter. I believe it was not terribly close. So too bad for the old peanut farmer down there on the plains. You've been listening to Cast Iron Balls, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Find us on Substack, brainiron.substack.com for more from us. You can also check out tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com for more from Mark Gillig, who composes our opening and closing themes, and who will be getting married this weekend. Abe, have you got anything sports-related, content-wise, that we have not yet touched upon tonight?
Yeah, so I think they'll clean this up, but USA Today looked into the contracts for the head football coaches, and 40 of them have old rules about like bonuses, and these head coaches are going to receive bonuses if they make it to the college football semifinals, because that's all there was, or the New Year's 6 game, one of the 6 bowl games, but no bonus for the first round of the playoffs this year. So, like, if they were to make it...
Oh, the poor things.
They won't get anything. I just thought that was amusing.
Oh.
Maybe they won't try as hard. Maybe that's going to add a new wrinkle. Like, they're going to sit out, like, fuck this. I want my $100,000 bonus for winning. They'll fix it, I'm sure, but I just find it funny that 40 programs still have not updated their head coach's contract.
We don't want to talk about the Achilles thing?
Oh, Deshaun.
How Deshaun Watson ruptured his Achilles on a non-contact play, and the crowd cheered when he went down.
Yeah, that's enough.
Poor he did cry, like, maybe, he's a human being,
Yeah, a bad one.
He's still going to get all his money. I don't know why he's crying. Right?
fuck him.
It's guaranteed money.
It is guaranteed money.
It is so funny.
They don't call it guaranteed money for nothing.
It's crazy how...
It is so funny. I've never seen the internet mostly come together for something so pro-women. It's just like...
It's so easy to be performatively mad at Deshaun Watson.
Also-
as part
Okay.
of the problem.
Good. Be performatively... I'll take it.
To be clear, if Deshaun Watson was playing great, they would overlook all the sexual assaults. They're mad that they supported a sexual assaulter who also sucks. Like, how dare you
Fine.
make me root for you, and you suck. I got nothing out of the transaction. I was willing to overlook all this, and now you suck.
Do you think that the Browns now just cut ties with him? Like,
I mean, you
they
have
just
to
accept
eat-
that they're
yeah.
going to have to pay him all this money? I'm sure that it's a question of dead cap space or whatever.
I wonder if there's some sort of gimmicky rule in the CBA that allows them to have this off the salary cap somehow because he's injured. I don't know, but they just have to eat it. It
I
did not
hope
work.
that this doesn't work out where like they now get their insurance company to pay the bulk of his remaining contract because it was a football injury that takes him out, right?
Right.
Like as opposed to like, oh, we didn't do our due diligence, and now it turns out he's a piece of shit who also sucks at football.
Right.
And so now, like, sorry, you can't file an insurance claim based on that. But because it was, like, I'm sure that, like, he's going to miss, if he misses the next 20 months or whatever,
Yeah.
and it isn't due back to play until the start of some other season.
Like 26? Yeah, because if he misses like all of the rest of this year and then like well into next year,
Right. presumably, like this is the sort of thing that is covered in like by insurance when you sign somebody to a $250 million deal, which would suck. That would give them an out. I don't care for that.
He's likely the last one to get a fully guaranteed contract, right? He has ruined the. He did not set a precedent. Just like that's it.
Not a great precedent set.
Not doing this again.
Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight then, and we will talk to you next time.
Later.
Abe, I know this is an audio format, but speaking of this sort of person who's probably throwing bottles on the field at the Texas-Georgia game, what's up with this dude?
Nice hair. Look at that.
If you've got a
Closer to God is what they say.
if you've got a scrunched little face, and I don't want to, shame anybody.
Yeah, you do.
If you've got a scrunched little face and your eyes are too close together as a result of, I wouldn't say congenital birth defect or anything like that, but just congenital reality, right? This is how this man was made by God and his parents and all of that. Don't grow the hair out to such comical proportions because it somehow just emphasizes just how tiny and scrunched up all of your little face features are.
Maybe that's the look it's going for.
Your response to is non-cancer sister being a shithead or not is the obviously correct one. Of course, she's the shithead here. And it's hilarious to me and very like millennial parent.
Yeah.
To be like, you got to understand the feelings of the one who's been put out by the sister having cancer and having to pick up a little bit extra slack around the house. She's the one whose feelings need to be prioritized here.
Yeah.
Is like, it is peak, like gentle parenting by shithead millennials that is going to ruin generation after generation.
You know what's funny? There was a I think I floated the topic because Binyam had this third kid. Like there was like some article that I saw like somewhere about parenting, about how like parents are like overly stressed and it's actually for nothing because it's like they're being raised in not in the exact right way. Like when you're overly concerned about random things, it doesn't make them resilient. Like basically there's like a trade-off to like how you raise the kids. I mean, the past maybe they were too neglectful, but now they're a little too overbearing, and there's there's like a right balance. But they're like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this am I the asshole thing. By the way, this is we might as well just change the podcast to that. It'll just be am I the asshole.
That is bottom of the barrel content.
To be fair to Binyam, this is the brainchild of Mike.
More gentle parenting by the millennials on the show,
Yes.
letting Mike, Mike, have your segment, man. Yeah, sure. Very good. Very good. Patting Mike on the head, giving him his due. Come stronger, Mike. Mike will take that as a compliment. If I include this somehow and it gets back to him in some way, he will
That's
take
what I'm
that as a
talking
compliment.
about.
Told him, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told him.
How about the fucking dogs?
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.